Welcome to the special show on Raj Sabha channel, To The Point. Today our guest is somebody who is one of the most visible faces in Indian politics, as well as one of the most articulate voices in Indian politics. He has been the voice of the UPA government for a long time. But in the last few weeks, he seems to have gone a little silent. But today he has decided to break that silence with us. Union Minister for Information Technology, Telecommunications and Human Resource Development, Mr. Kapil Sibal. You were seen as a middle-class hero, one of the most aspirational leaders of this country. But the same people who saw you as an aspirational leader or as a role model, in the last few months, seems to have made you a villain.
I don't know about that. I think whether I'm a villain or not a villain will be judged ultimately by history when it is written. I don't believe that the people of India believe I am a villain. I believe as events unfold themselves, there will be a realization that the path to eradicating corruption is a very complex path. It involves legislation, but it also involves steps which are perhaps equally, if not far more important, of changing mindsets, bringing ethical values into the system, making systemic changes in the system, reducing the human interface in giving services to people. So there's a whole host of things.
Do you agree that somewhere along the way, as the voice of the government, as somebody who was the interlocutor of the government, whether it was with Baba Ramdev and then later with Anna Hazare and all, somewhere you seem to have lost the way, or there seems to have been such a serious lack of trust in you that the government had to change the interlocutors?
First of all, there's no question of anybody changing anybody, and there's no question of either losing trust or people losing their way. It's none of that. And whatever was done throughout this period was not the implementation of individual decisions, but implementation of governmental.
It all looked, and even the India Against Corruption, the people in India Against Corruption, there was you were the target. They said that
naturally
there was a serious trust deficit between you and the leaders of the India Against Corruption, with whom you were interacting. They called you a liar. They called you a betrayer. They called you a cheater.
Oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. First of all, nobody ever called me a liar.
Anna Hazare did.
He never did. He said, ministers are liars. They never called me a liar.
Okay, but
so
there
were
two, three people.
Correct. So that relates to all ministers, right? So therefore, don't.
So you were also included.
So don't. You said they targeted.
Yes.
Let's see. I was the spokesperson of the group. So therefore, whatever the group wanted me to communicate, I communicated, and therefore, whatever was said was communicated through me.
Right.
So therefore, whatever was in opposition was also reflected at me.
At you.
Right? So therefore, to that extent...
You didn't take it personally?
No, of course not.
You don't take it personally?
Have you ever seen me or heard me say anything harsh or respond to the kind of language they used about us?
So you agree they used bad language? I mean, they used very...
No.
not really very parliamentary language.
Well, we raised it with, I raised it with them in the meeting.
Right.
That you have said this about us.
Yes.
Please tell us, because we are in a closed door meeting, please tell us in what way have we cheated you? In what way have we lied?
Yeah. Or betrayed.
Or betrayed. And they said, no, this is not about you. And you will see it when the proceedings come out. Okay. Their response was, this is not about you at all. We were talking about people in the party.
Which party?
The Congress party.
So,
we were not talking about
it was not about the government, it was about the party.
No, they were not about these ministers
who
were negotiating with them. You will see it in the proceedings, right? They admitted that this was not about us. So the point therefore is that the reality is entirely different from the perception. You perceive that those remarks were directed against us. When we confronted them, they say, no, they were not directed against us.
The another thing which you said at some point of time, even at the beginning of these negotiations, that, or even in between when the heat between the two of you, between you people and the India Against Corruption leaders became intense.
No, first of all, India Against Corruption includes all of us.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all against corruption. Let's be clear. So when you talk about India against corruption, you pit government against those people. The government is against corruption.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. So let me call them the Team Anna, as it is generally referred in the media.
You say that.
Okay. You said that Team Anna has had some ulterior motives. At one point of time, you have said that Anna Hazare's campaign was not as innocent as it looks. There is an ulterior motive.
No.
Do you still believe it?
First of all, I don't think I ever used the word ulterior motive.
Okay.
Right? When I said that the campaign is not as simple as it looks, that means the campaign was well organized. Okay. Right? That there was support to the campaign from different quarters. It is not something that happened emotively on the spot.
It was not spontaneous, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. It was something that was well organized, and we give them credit for it, that they have organized it well. But that it didn't attribute any ulterior motive. There was a motive. The motive was to fight against corruption. They have a particular way of fighting against corruption. There was a difference of opinion between us and them, right? That difference of opinion was not accepted by them. They therefore called us names. We never did, because we believe that in democracy there should be a difference of opinion.
The way they were demanding that the Jan Lokpal bill should be the ultimate bill, and the way he went on fast and things like that, you used the word, it's anti-constitutional.
Yes. Well, what did I say? Or what can anybody say who represents or alleges to represent a section of civil society? I assume the Jan Lokpal bill represents a section of civil society which is led by Anna Hazare ji. Okay? Now, can anybody in any constitutional process, right, say either you accept what I say or I will go on fast?
Well, he went on fast.
No, I'm just saying, is this part of any democratic dialogue?
My way or no way.
Either you accept what I say or you are a liar. Either you accept what I say, you are dishonest. Either you accept what I say, otherwise you are corrupt. What I said was that when you are actually framing laws, there is no way that this process can be adopted in any democratic nation for the formulation of a legislation. I was commenting upon the process.
Finally, what happened? The Parliament discussed on their demands. It was an extraordinary thing that the Parliament met on a Saturday, discussed this entire issue, and then came out with, it's not a resolution, but sent to the House thing. Do you think that the government as well as the opposition parties went a little too far to satisfy their demands?
First of all, let's go back a little. What were their basic demands? Their basic demands were, number one, that the Prime Minister should be included.
Right.
Number one. Number two, that the judiciary should be under the Lokpal. Number three, that the members of Parliament, for their conduct in the House, should be under the Lokpal. And four, that all state governments' legislation should be covered by the Lokpal.
Right.
Right? These are the four demands.
Yeah.
Right? These are the four basic demands.
Absolutely.
fifth was that the government servants should also be under the Lokpal.
Right.
Government
the
servants
entire
of the
bureaucracy.
central government, government servants employed by the state government should be all under the Lokpal to be dealt with by them, both through punitive action and prosecution.
Right.
These are broadly 5. There were a couple of others. Okay. What did we say? Constitutionally, it's not permissible till we amend the constitution because of Article 105
What is not
to
permissible?
bring conduct of members of parliament within the house under the Lokpal, unless we amend. 2, we said, and we said there is a legal impediment, that there is a Supreme Court judgment. Till that Supreme Court judgment is overruled, we have to abide by it, number 1. Number 2, as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, we believe that you can bring him under the Lokpal, but that's something that we can discuss. But if we are to bring him in, it has to be on conditions. Number 3, we said we can't bring the judiciary under the Lokpal because of the constitutional balance that has been created by the framers, and therefore it would be contrary to the constitutional structure. Number 4, we said as far as Lok Ayukts are concerned, it's going to be very difficult to bring this legislation in the parliament session because the process of consultation
With the states.
with the states is going to take up a long time, and we have to bring this bill by June, right? We have to have it cleared and bring it to Parliament. So that's not possible. And as far as government servants are concerned, we'd require amendment of Article 311 and 323 of the Constitution. Okay?
Okay.
So this is what we said. Now, if you really look at what happened later, and you talk to me about Parliament discussing the matter, these basic demands were given up by them. They were given up by them when it came to Parliament.
Right.
They never insisted on the judiciary. They never insisted on members of Parliament. They never insisted on government servants and they never raised the issue of the Prime Minister. So, in fact, if what we had said had been, if they were eventually going to agree on this, then there was no need for this conflict.
So there was no need for a fast, you mean?
There was no need for the conflict. There was no need for abuse.
There was no need for a fast.
There was no need for any of this because ultimately they accepted.
So which means what you are trying to say is, in actual terms, they have not got anything.
No, that's I don't.
Which they demanded.
See, again, we are now treading very sensitive territory. I don't want to say who lost, who won, because I don't think that should be the nature of the dialogue.
But anyways,
but what I was said was, if ultimately the issue that on the basis of which they were attacking individual ministers and government were issues that they themselves didn't put on the table when the matter came to Parliament, then I asked myself the question, why was this necessary? Why did the nation have to go through a trauma?
Apart from the nation, you yourself went through a trauma.
No, I don't see.
Personally,
You are exaggerating
you
it.
Certain amount of trauma.
No, you are exaggerating. We don't go. See, this is our job. This is our job. We don't feel traumatized by any of this. We stand by what we genuinely believe. At least I can tell you for myself, and I'm sure that applies to all my colleagues. We stood by what we genuinely felt was right. Now, that difference of opinion was attributed with motives and with corrupt motives. And I think that if ultimately they were to give up what they were asking for, then all this was unnecessary.
Okay, Mr. Sibal, we'll just take a break now. We'll come back and talk to Mr. Sibal. Welcome back. We are talking to Mr. Kapil Sibal. Mr. Sibal, see, one of the things which went against you during this whole thing, why you were seen as a villain, which I first mentioned, was that you were seen as having become a little too arrogant in the way you were dealing with people.
Please give me one instance.
During this entire, as a spokesman of those five-member committee, and when you were interacting with people, there was a perception that you were being a little arrogant.
First of all, I don't know what perceptions you talk about. First of all, arrogance is far removed from me. I am constantly in the mode of learning on a daily basis, and I never believe that when I'm talking to anybody, the person that I'm talking to is any the less wise than me. I think that I give him the kind of dignity and respect that he deserves. But that doesn't mean that I should back off from my opinions, right? Now, what was happening was that there was an opinion that was reflected through the media, through statements made by distinguished members of the Anna Hazare group, that what they are saying is right. Right? And I was saying that what they are saying, in our perception,
is not right.
Is no, whether it's right or not, it is not possible to move forward in that direction because of certain impediments, and basically constitutional impediments. Now, if I made that point, then I am called arrogant. If I had conceded to them, then I would have been extremely reasonable.
Right.
You see? So I don't think that you should confuse arrogance with articulating something with some sense of conviction.
Right.
And I continue to believe that what we said at that point, and I say we because this was not me, what we said and what we were stating to the media was reflective of what the common belief was in government as to what should be said and what should not be said.
What is the lesson which you have learned from this entire episode?
I don't know. I think the nation needs to learn it.
You as a politician, you as a professional, you as a minister, you as somebody, involved in this kind of interlocution.
The only lesson, if you really want me to act like a politician, is to say that I shall not become the spokesperson of a group in the future if it is set up, right? But that's talking like a politician. But if you talk to me as a person, I don't think that I did anything wrong. I did my duty as a minister. I did my duty as a spokesperson of the group, and I reflected the views of the government. There is nothing that I ever said that reflected my own individual views.
Your individual view as far as the Lokpal is concerned is that this institution is necessary? Is that your individual
Well, I don't know what form it will take. But I think that a law by itself is not going to deal with the problems of corruption.
Whether it is the draft of the government or the Jan Lokpal,
no law.
You don't think this kind of a law will bring about
law. No, for example, supposing you want your tax refund,
right,
and people are asking for money,
which happens all the time.
Which happens all the time. The officer says, I'll give you a refund only if you give me X amount of money.
Right.
Now, how do you do? Can you have a law and you can prosecute those persons? Or, I'll give you an alternative. Or you have an e-governance mechanism where an income tax assessee can access the net, the department, and electronically receive his refund, right? Through the net into his bank account straight away, right? Which is part of e-governance, part of services being delivered to consumers through electronic means, right? Now, what are which two solutions are better? Obviously, the second solution. So you can actually deal with the same problem,
right,
by reducing
interface.
Human interface.
Right. I know.
Today, all transactions of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or on the through electronic means.
We will go to the next. Till last year, whatever you said was taken very seriously. You were a very articulate voice. You were a trusted voice of the government. By and large, people trusted what you said, and by and large, you were a very well known and also accepted face. But the day you made that statement of zero loss on the 2G, that is when the things started changing for you.
Girish, again, I don't know how many times I have to explain this to the media and to the press. And
do you still hold
I want
that zero loss theory?
Let me ask you the question. If the policy of the government is not to auction, and they did not auction, then what is the loss?
So you still hold the...
No, it's not a question of still holding. There's a fundamental policy issue. If I say that I will do it...
CBI today says that the government lost 22,000
Again.
Forget that huge 170.
No, one second. Let's not let us not obfuscate issues.
Yes.
Let's not obfuscate issues. Three things. The CAG report talks of three figures. 176 and then two other figures.
Right.
Okay. The same CBI doesn't take any of those calculations.
They have come to 22,000.
So they don't take any of the three calculations of the CAG? You're the same if you are relying on the CBI. Okay?
I'm relying on the CBI because they are investigating.
No, why? Please
right,
let me just respond.
Okay.
So CBI itself does not accept any of the three modes of calculation of the CAG. Right? So you may ask me the question. No, apparently, yes, it is clear.
Yeah.
Now you may ask me the question, is then the CAG wrong? Right? Is then the CAG wrong if the CBI is not? No, CBI is an investigating agency. We are not even at a stage where the charges have been framed. Now you say to me that the CBI has made this claim and you are putting it to me as gospel truth. You are making the same mistake that others make, right? What did I say? My statement was that if the policy was not to auction and the government did not auction, the question of loss does not arise, right? Now the CBI may be calculating loss on the basis of an auction, right? Or an indexation, right? Right? They may be calculating that loss. They may be well advised and they may be right to calculate that loss. But you have to see my statement in the context in which it was made. Namely, if there was a policy decision, there could be no loss. We stand by that statement, and this is again not me, this is government policy.
Is it your conviction at this point of time that since there was no policy of auction, there cannot be any loss? So this whole investigation, whatever is happening, is not
First
necessary.
of all, I see it is not for me to comment on all these things. Why should I comment?
Because
the government is not going to comment on an investigation that is going on, and it should not. It should not, because there is a process that's going on. That process is a legal process. Let it be completed. You have to ask me to explain my statement, which I have explained in Parliament. And what is my statement is the government position. It's not my statement. What is the government position? The policy in 2007 and 8 was not to auction the spectrum and not to index it, right? There was neither an indexation nor an auction. You can differ with that. So you can say, no, that was not the policy. That's fine. But nobody is differing with that. What are people saying? People are saying, if you had auctioned it, you would have fetched this kind of money. And if you had auctioned it and you had fetched this kind of money, because you did not auction it, therefore government has been caused loss, the exchequer has lost. Therefore, your theory of zero loss is wrong, but my theory of zero loss is not based on auction. Then the argument made is, all right, forget the auction. You could have indexed it. Namely, there was a price in 2001. After 7 years, if you take it around inflation, right, the value of that would have gone up. So you could have indexed it. It was not indexed. Why it was not indexed? That is again a policy matter. It was decided. There were certain recommendations of TRAI.
So, and you don't come into the picture as far as
I don't see. See, I am not in the picture. What I was enunciating government policy, which was enunciated not just by me, but the highest functionaries of this government in Parliament, saying the policy was not to auction. Now, if the policy was not to auction, how can government admit that we caused a loss?
We are going in for a short break. We'll come back and talk to Mr. Kapil Sibal. Welcome back. We are talking to Mr. Kapil Sibal. Mr. Sibal, let's get into a little larger issue. You are a key member of the government in the UPA 1 as well as UPA 2. UPA 1.
No, incidentally, you have already made a judgment that I was a key member of the government. I no longer am. Since you already said that this is the reality, maybe you should modify your question a bit.
Please, I am talking about UPA 1. You are a very key member of the UPA 1 government. You are also a key member in the UPA 2. That's what I meant. UPA 1 had some real big ticket measures, Somehow in UPA 2, there seems to be some kind of a policy paralysis or governance deficit. Do you agree?
I don't agree one bit. I don't agree one bit. The fact that the media doesn't talk about the positives of the UPA 2 does not mean that the UPA 2 does not have any positives. Yesterday I announced one exam for engineering, right? We're going to start it incrementally. Right?
But that IIT thing is a little controversial about what you're saying already today about the students having to take loans or pay after that.
No, absolutely. Again, the facts are not appreciated, so it becomes. So what is it that we have said? That no student will have to pay anything back till such time as he gets employment.
Job.
right? So therefore, there is no burden on the family at all. Just
Right.
the contrary. And
if he
70
doesn't get a job for 1 year after it, is
even
still
10 years, he doesn't have to pay.
doesn't have to pay.
So once he gets it, so there is no controversy in any of
Okay.
that. And these are all pointed. These are all transformational things.
Absolutely. Don't you think that it is the failure of your government to communicate its
No,
own?
no, it's not that. It's ultimately
achievements?
how do we communicate? How does any government communicate? The medium of communication is the media.
Right.
There is no other medium of
Right.
communication.
You
If-
don't see it as a failure
How is it
of
a-
your government to change this?
How can we change it? If you in the media, and we've seen now, if you in the media repeat 24/7 what the media, the eye of the camera catches, and keep on repeating it 24/7 and don't give any space to any other news, then what the people of this country will get is only that news.
Are you trying to say that you are helpless in the
No, how we see
The government is
me-
helpless?
No, there's no question of again helpless.
Government has nothing to reflect on this?
Government has nothing to reflect means what?
On-
We are-
on
I am
why this is
why
happening?
every day we make statements and some, for example, on we did a program on adult education the other day. We had a 2-day conference. We demonstrated how, in fact, we've set up a system in place in the adult education financial mechanisms that will not allow any diversion of funds. First time in the country that the funds will reach the authority which they are supposed to reach and the person they are supposed to reach. Very big event. The media was there in huge numbers. Not a line
Not a
reported.
line, not a minute on the
Not a
television.
minute on television. Not a line reported. Now, what can we do? We can only say this is what we are doing. Now the media, is very discriminating. It decides what to put out, what not to put out, what makes news, right? If I abuse my neighbor, the mohalla will know about it. If I say nice things about my neighbor, nobody wants to know.
Talking of neighbor and mohalla, this is just a short thing. I want you to give a short reply to this. Chandni Chowk, your constituency residents, where there was some kind of a referendum there. What has been the reaction of your
I am
residents?
really surprised that you asked me this question.
What has been the
No,
response
first of all,
of your?
I'm surprised.
I'm not talking of. I'm saying what
What
has
is
been
a
the response
referendum?
of your?
No, first, what
I'm
is
not-
what is a referendum?
I don't want you to get into referendum.
Then why?
I'm saying what has been the response of your
But you
constituents
just told
to
me
you?
there was a referendum.
There was.
So please find out if there was. Then ask me the question.
They went out and did some. They asked some questions to the
Who
saying
asked?
that,
Who asked?
well, people from India.
I
get
don't know who
corruption.
they asked. Please.
Okay.
I don't know. Please see. Ask me this question when you go to the constituency. Don't ask me this question based on what you read and what something.
So you say there
somebody
was no
said.
referendum.
No, I don't say anything.
Ah.
If there was a referendum, find out. Find out what a referendum is first.
Okay.
Okay?
Now,
Before
okay,
you ask me
we-
this question.
we-
But wait till 2014.
We will wait.
Okay? Wait till 2014. Then
Just-
you will know.
Just we are almost at the end of this. Just one.
So
last,
they say if they held a referendum in Rahul Ji's constituency. They say they held a referendum in X constituency.
In any way,
and 80%, 60%, 70%.
2014, they are going to come. They are going to come
So
and.
let's
create-
wait.
We will
till
wait for that.
The true test of what will happen and how the people of India view us will be seen in 2014.
Absolutely. Just one last question.
This very
Arun Jaitley.
incidentally, the recent Delhi University elections took place, right? And the whole middle class, you said, was against.
NSUI won the.
And the president was
President
won by
was-
whom? So if this is, and this was the referendum, this is what the referendum reflected, that the entire middle class, and this is what you started with, then the entire middle class is against us. But how is it that the president and the youth of this country voted for a Congress candidate for the president of the Delhi University?
We are really running short of time, Mr. Sibal. There's just one last question. Mr. Arun Jaitley, while speaking in Rajya Sabha, made the statement that the UPA government is depending too much on lawyers. Is this some kind of a the professional rivalry coming into play, or what does he
First
mean?
of all, Arun Jaitley has never been a professional rival of mine. He has been a professional collaborator. Arun Jaitley is not a political rival of mine. And if he says that the government is relying too much on lawyers, I would just ask him, what is he? Is the opposition relying too much on lawyers?
Thank you very much for joining us. It was a pleasure talking to you. We will come back again with another special show and another special guest. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.